Naomi Shannon, and she is the author of the best-selling book, The Raw Vegan Book.
No.
The Raw Gourmet, and co-author of Raw Food Celebration, which is out last year, 2008. And Nomi received 3 Best of Raw Awards for Best Raw Educator and Favorite Raw Chef and Favorite Raw Book. She's been raw since 1987. Nomi has been featured in Alive magazine, Get Fresh, San Diego North, the County Times, Galveston News, as well as numerous radio shows. Nomi offers a free online newsletter as well as a free 7-part email class called The Raw Truth at www.rawgourmet.com. My pleasure to introduce Naomi Shannon.
Thank you, Vanette. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Vanette and I have known each other, I don't know, 10 years? She used to be the chef at Hippocrates, and I came down there to teach, and I invaded her kitchen. And that's not easy for a chef to have some slob walk in and say, can I have this and can I have that? Do you have this and do you have that? So, are you guys all having a good time? Yeah. Good. If you get curious, I don't care about the TV cameras, although I do want to say hello to you people who are watching the live streaming. To me, I am talking to you guys. If somebody wants to see something a little closer, you can come up and take a peek and not worry too much about it. I think we may have time for questions. The only time I really can't take a question is when this thing's going because it's kind of noisy. What I want to make for you today are 3 very simple recipes, but they're hearty and filling. How many of you already are making yummy soups at home for yourself? Great. How many of you would like to add a few more to your repertoire? Have you guys ever made a delicious corn chowder? Let me tell you about the corn chowder my mother used to make, because this tastes just like what my mother used to make. And I think she made it in the summer. Why, I don't know, because she used canned corn. We should get one of those big cans of creamed corn, and we dump that in a pot with like 1 or 2 slices of onion only. And I think we'd take that can and fill it one more time with, I'm pretty sure it was milk, not cream, because I don't think we used cream in my house. Don't remember, so long ago. And we'd add that, and we'd just let it gently heat and stir it, and then we'd take the onion out and we'd throw it away. And I loved that soup. It just was awesome. That's all it was milk, cream corn in the can, and onion, maybe a little salt or pepper. So this is actually an improvement on that by about 1,000%. So, and what I like to do, I'm not sure exactly what went on in the kitchen here, because I had a lot of absolutely fabulous help, whom I will be introducing to you soon. If you're not sure if you want it to be like sweet corn, that sweet taste, or the regular yellow corn, which is that more plain taste, like you might try some of each. How many years of corn did this take, do you know? Remember? 4 maybe? Oh, really? Wow. Okay. So to get 4 cups of corn, it took 5.5 years. Lots of times it only takes 4 or 5 years. And I'm not going to cut every ear in front of you, but I do want to show you my technique, which this bowl, I asked for a bowl, but they must not have the right one in the kitchen. I needed a lower bowl than this, because what I'm going to do is I want the kernels to land in the bowl instead of all over. But this one, as I cut down, the bowl will get in the way. So that won't work. So I shall demonstrate my amazing corn technique in this dish, which isn't going to work as well. The thing about corn, as you probably already know, is that cob is really, really a lot of roughage. So you don't want to dig too deeply into the cob, because even though you're using a really great blender, forgive the mess, the roughage of the cob will still be there, and you could basically get a bellyache from it. So here's what I like to do. See how fast this is going? And I'm, yapping too. Finish it up there. Then what you do is you milk the corn. This is how you milk the corn. Is this what you did? Good. I don't know if they do it this way in France. I had somebody fly in from France to help me. How's that for something special? So that's the very fancy, difficult corn, removing the corn. There's all kinds of little implements too that you can buy and use, but a nice sharp knife's, pretty good too. So that was it. And this is so simple. Now we have 2 cups of almond milk. Let me read the recipe to you, because this year they're doing things differently, and there's actually a book you can buy with all the recipe in it, and that includes the people that are watching live. How are you doing at home in your office watching on the computer? Yo, glad you're with us, because if you live in Boise or something, you couldn't make it. This is the next best thing. I'm going to read the recipe to you now and then again so you can write it down in case you don't get a chance to buy that book. So the whole recipe for this corn chowder is, and you can of course raise or lower the quantities, 2 cups of almond milk, and I'll tell you how to make that, 4 cups of fresh corn kernels, cut off the cob and then you milk it like I just showed you, 1 avocado cut up in chunks, a teaspoon of ground cumin, 2 teaspoons of finely minced onion, and a ½ teaspoon of sea salt. Okay? And then we'll do some toppings. So I've put the almond milk in here. Is there anyone, raise your hand, who does not know how to make almond milk? Raise your hand. Okay. Almond milk is a great substitute for, it's a nut milk. And you can make a nut milk out of most any kind of nut for dairy milk, like that can filled with milk. So normally what I would do is a 2-to-1 ratio, like 2 cups of almond milk to 2 cups of water to 1 cup of almonds. First I'd soak the almonds overnight, and then the next morning I'd throw out that rinse water and I'd rinse them again, and then I'd put them in the blender, the cup, which is now expanded into more, but I measure it dry, and then 2 cups of water. Then I'll blend it very, very thoroughly, and then I'll put it through a mesh bag. It's sort of a pain to put through a strainer, but you can do it. And I'll squeeze that bag, and the pulp that's left, you can freeze if you want it and make it into crackers or whatever. And then this is your milk. A richer milk would be 2-to-1 or 3-to-1. You can do 6-to-1. If you want to drink it on its own, just as a nourishing beverage, you can sweeten it with a date or 2, put a pinch of sea salt in it, a touch of agave, something like that. Or even a little tiny piece of vanilla to give it a little more body and taste. So, here we go. This is so quick. I think the longest thing is cutting the corn off the cob, which if you're having guests or something, you could either make this soup in advance or you could at least prep it like this has been prepped. Now I'm using a really powerful, oh gosh, it's a Blendtec. Wow, aren't I lucky? They usually give me a Vitamix. Because I do prefer the Blendtec. If you want to figure out why I prefer the Blendtec over the K-Tech, just go to rawgourmet.com. I actually compare the two. They're both fabulous. But the K-Tech is 3 horsepower, and the Vitamix is 2 horsepower and the K-Tech is 3, and that makes a big difference. I'm setting it on pulse, and now I'm just going to let it go for a minute. You can take a shortcut with this recipe or any other recipe that starts with almond milk by using a small amount of almond butter in water. It comes out a little different. It comes out smoother and creamier when you're using, fresh almond milk. But actually the next recipe we're going to be making like a broth or a stock. Instead of beef or chicken or fish or even vegetables in this case, we're making our soup stock out of this time an almond, and next time it'll be an almond butter. So if you don't want to or aren't able to make almond butter, it'll come out similar by doing it the way we're going to do the next soup, which is water and almond butter. So all right, now we're going to do the avocado. I use the avocado. It makes it a gorgeous color, but also I'm not always mixing avocados and nuts, but this soup, it gives it a smooth texture. Now, do any of you have trouble getting the seed out of the avocado? You don't? Oh, okay. Here's what I do, because I'm a klutz. This hand goes behind my back so I don't cut it off by mistake. I go like that, and then I twist. Works every time. You're laughing at me or with me? Okay, good. With is good. At is good, too, sometimes. All right, I said cut in cubes, but what I say in a recipe and what I do in real life, didn't like that it just went on my shirt. I do have a chef's shirt, but I knew it would be really warm in this room, and I'm not good with overheating. So I'm just going to scrape it in here. It's a great avocado. It's absolutely perfect. I live where the avocados grow. I live down in a little town called Bonsall, which is next to Fallbrook, where I believe more avocados grow than any place else in the world. And then we're going to do a teaspoon of ground cumin. I'm not going to put the whole teaspoon in yet, mainly because, this might be really fresh cumin and very strong, so I'll put half of it in. And a little bit of onion. I'm not too crazy about raw onions, so I only am putting 2 teaspoons in. You might want to have 2 tablespoons or 4 or something, We don't know that. A recipe is always just a suggestion. Half a teaspoon of sea salt. This is beautiful Himalayan sea salt, that pink. I have this at home. It's wonderful sea salt. Then I'm just going to zap it up, and guess what? It's done. How hard was that? And it's very filling. You could make a meal of it, or with a salad next to it or something, or flaxseed crackers or something. Now, if you're making this for someone with a really delicate digestion, you might want to strain this, because for someone who's coming off of, not a lot of roughage. There's a lot of roughage in this. So you might want to initially, if it's for someone very young or elderly or someone with a weak digestion, I skipped the cardinal rule. You have to taste and adjust seasonings, and I forgot to do that. I'm so glad I did it, because it needs some more salt. So put it all back in. Get rid of this. Put the rest of the salt in. And put the rest of the cumin in. And it may even need a little more salt. I'll steal that from the next recipe and ask you to get a little more salt. You don't have to do it this second, because you have to hand out after you hand out. All right? I may not need it. We don't know. Yeah. If I were going to serve this warm, would I warm it up in the blender, or would I put it in a pot, or put it in a dehydrator? You asked me. Great question. Let me zap this, and I'll answer it. And let me tell you a story about how I made this soup one time for 240 people, and how it didn't come out right, and what I had to do. Honestly, it could use a little more salt, I think, but it's good enough. If one of you ladies wants to help her hand out, that would be great, and it'll go faster. The question was, how would I warm it up? People are warming soup up and food up in their dehydrator, not to dehydrate, but to warm up. Now think about it. There's almond milk in this and fresh corn. Why would you put it in the dehydrator for 5 hours at 120? It's just going to create mold or rancidity. If you want it warm, stick it in a pot, stand there, stirring it gently, and when it gets to be hot jacuzzi, then it's good enough. I mean, it just makes no sense at all to allow something to stand there at slightly warm temperature. It goes against all common sense, and I know a lot of people are doing it. As for letting it go in the blender until it's warm, you can do that. I have literally never done it. I sort of feel like either way is okay, but I would prefer gently heating it in a pot than running the blender and running the blender and running the blender and all that friction and all that, But, I mean, either way, it would be quicker, I think, to just do it in the pot.
Well, it would change the consistency, too.
It would. Any more questions on the corn chowder? I'll tell you what I did. I was at an event in upstate New York, and I had to order the food just by phone. I said, I needed, 150 ears of corn. And they're like, lady, how many cases do you want? And I'm like, how many ears of corn are in a case? I was very new at this. And so I just was ordering blind. I couldn't taste the corn. I couldn't test the corn. The corn comes. The corn is the most tasteless corn. It looks like corn, but you bite into it. It has literally maybe the taste of cardboard. So the blender I was using was this high, and it took me like an extra hour of doctoring it up, adding more avocado, adding more salt, adding more namashoyo. I'm like, it didn't ever work. I mean, I had to serve it. It was almost like avocado soup. 50 people came up. It was, I think, lunch. Oh my God, the soup was so delicious. I'm like, okay. So the next little item I'm going to make, and I'm more than happy to take questions. As you can see, this is going very fast. which is the point. I don't want you to go home and go, I don't have the time to make healthy food for myself. Wah! Wah! Because really, how long did it take me to do that? You know, I cut, all right, you had to pull the green stuff off. You know, that you didn't see that. And then, I mean, how long did it take? 10 minutes? Give it 15, pulling the green stuff off, you know, that kind of thing. You could make this for dinner, I think, with, you know, maybe some other things like a flax cracker to go with it and or a little salad. Oh, I didn't do, you know what I need? Is there enough there for me to do a demonstration bowl, and then you can have it back? That's what I started to do when I tasted it. Put it down. There we go. There you go. Have it back. You don't have to do that. You can be shown. Anyway, so forgive my, you know, addled approach here. What's the music I'm hearing? Is there a concert going on? Sure.
Yes, on your almond milk,
Could you speak a little louder?
do you sometimes leave the pulp in your almond milk?
Some people do that, like when they're going ahead and turning it into a smoothie. They don't seem to mind. I personally wouldn't. All right, so there it is. Obviously, it would be nice if it was a pretty china bowl, but just with a little bit of color, and it looks beautiful with nasturtiums in it. I think in my book it's got a nasturtium. So if you need more samples, there's this. Isn't it yummy? How simple is that? Do you think it needs a little more salt too? Okay. Great. That's great. Because I'm actually not a big salt, you know, hound, but I kind of thought it did. So that's good. I'm glad you like it. Instead of salt, what? Yeah, you could put celery is salty, but I'm pretty convinced that unless you chopped that celery up fine and dehydrated it and then powdered it in the blender, it wouldn't really be salty enough. Yeah. Yeah. So, but if you dehydrated it and all the liquid, all the water was out of it, and then you turned it into a powder, it might be salty enough. I made this recipe. Kevin, does anyone not know who Kevin and Anne Marie Gianni are? I didn't think so. They had a fellow on a few months ago who made popcorn out of cauliflower. And they weren't real specific on the seasoning, so I did it, and I used way too much salt. I used nutritional yeast, and oh, it was god-awful. So I mean, it was just awful. So I just let it stay in there till it was absolutely hard as a rock, and I put it in the blender, and I rummaged around, and I put in some dehydrated mushrooms and a few other things, and I ground it up, and it's a great spice. I don't throw anything out. You make a bad soup, you turn it into something else. Okay, now we're going to make mushroom soup. This is a really, really popular recipe. This is delicious warmed, and I do warm this in on the top of the stove. There's a lot of background noise. I'm having trouble hearing, and I don't even think it's coming from this room. It's that music. I've got this learning disability where I hear the background and I don't hear the foreground, so you'll have to forgive me. Okay, so I put the mushroom soup recipe is 1 cup of water, half a cup of almond butter, 4 to 6 cups quartered mushrooms to taste. And I said it that way in the book because who knows what size mushrooms people have bought. I go by taste. I have the sense that I use more than 4 to 6 quartered mushrooms, but cups. 2 tablespoons of namashoyu. Namashoyu is a kind of a soy sauce. The manufacturers say it's raw. Namashoyu does contain wheat. If you can't have wheat, most tamari, which is also a soy sauce, but it's not raw, doesn't have wheat. I'm not sure this is raw, even though they say it's raw, because it's real hard to get a brown liquid like that being raw. Same with agave. And a 1/4 teaspoon sea salt. This is, again, a ridiculously simple recipe. So I put my cup of water in there. Now I'm going to put the half a cup of almond butter. Now this is an extremely rich recipe. I highly recommend that you use it in half-cup servings, especially if you're serving additional food. Because if you're using this and then making other food, and especially for someone who isn't a raw fooder, they're going to be so full and uncomfortable feeling, they're going to think that raw food makes them sick. So proceed with caution on this. Well, somebody measured it. It looks like more, but it's supposed to be a cup of water and a half a cup of almond butter. There's my soup stock. I have a little ebook called the Little Ebook of Raw Soups. It's got 19 pages. It's $7 if you want to get it. Just go onto my website. And it talks about 14 or 15 different bases or stocks. This is one of them. The almond milk was another one of where to start with your soup. Because if you get this down and know how to just sort of throw a soup together, you really never have to worry about having time to make raw food. It's so much faster than a salad. It's important that you wash this jar out quickly. You don't want to let anything dry in it, and you don't want to leave liquid in it for any amount of time to keep it, in perfect shape. But if you master soups, and they can be chunky and thick or warm or whatever, then, it's really a wonderful skill to have. Then you're not going to be hungry. And you're not going to be sitting there going, what should I eat? I don't know what to eat. Tell me what to eat. I want to be a raw fooder. I don't know what to eat. Here we go. This is what to eat. And, you also might notice that even though this is tasty, I went to that event last night for the speakers. I'm not myself. Even though I tried to control the quantity, I was eating cake made out of nuts and coconut fat and agave, and then I went and I tasted the chocolate thing, and then I tasted the lemon thing, and I'm like, I'm just not right. It was just too rich and heavy for me. That's fun stuff, but when you're at home, you want to have a healthier kind. Look, I'm not even paying attention how much I'm putting in here, because, I'm going to go by taste. And it's different every time, because the mushrooms are different every time, Sometimes the watery, sometimes you get the white ones, and they're not as tasty as these little dark creminis are. Creminis are baby portobellos. So, all right, I'll put the namashoyu in. This time I'll be brave. Nah, can't put it all in. Might be too much. But I will throw all the salt in. That's it. That's it for the ingredients. How hard is this? You just got to go to the store. Oh, you got to wipe the mushrooms off with a damp paper towel. Oh, so much work. Oh, I know. The noise is the fan. Well, you can. I've actually tried that recently, and they weren't all waterlogged. That's great. Well, and just recently I tried it too. I just put them in the sink and I ran the water over, and we're like, they didn't really absorb it. Maybe it's an old wives' tale. We've all been spending hours wiping our mushrooms off when we don't have to. Also, if you're interested in buying a blender like this, I have a booth special, and that is I can't openly advertise this. Ooh, it's going out on TV. All right, well, I'm in for a dollar. I'm able to get demo blenders. That means they maybe demonstrated them a few hours a day for 10 days, and then they take them back to the factory and they put a new jar on, and they sell it for $100 less than a new one. So you can get this blender, demo blender, for me for $2.99 instead of $3.99. The warranty's a little shorter. It's 3 years on the motor with the brand new one, and it's 1 year on the motor, but it's the same. The rest of the warranties are the same: lifetime on the blade and coupling, and a year on the jar. So you know, $3.99 is a lot of money. It's a big investment, so you do have the opportunity to be able to get a demo one. And if you can't get it this weekend, you know, you can just email me. Most of the people in my newsletter list know that, you know, I usually have them. They come in black and white. Yeah, I added a little bit more water at the end because I just felt I should, but yeah. It's extreme, yeah, the mushrooms made the volume. It's extremely rich, really rich. And what I'm doing right now is just, you know, I like to, I really do believe that, you know, you eat with your eyes. So I'm just going to, this is not, my publisher said it's not a very pretty color. Can't you make it a pretty color? I'm like, no, we don't use food dye and stuff like that in raw. So yes, it's not a pretty color, but that's the color of mushrooms. So I don't, it's not easy to gild this, the color of this or make it. So I think it looks good just with additional chopped mushrooms. Can you all see that okay?
What do you do? How do you get raw mushrooms to California almond or Castro?
Raw almonds?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a problem. Some of the stores are importing them from Spain. I've seen them at Whole Foods. They're called Morona, or Italy. They're called Morona almonds because, you know, it actually still says raw almond on the package. And also small growers. You might want to Google like small almond growers. They're allowed to sell, farmers markets, they're allowed to sell a certain number of pounds directly to the consumer.
Not the other is the one that's local. Not another. It's an Anderson, another.
What is it? Oh, I see. But these people aren't local.
Why don't they can Google?
All right, she said there's a source called Nut and Other that you can Google. But I think Anderson as well. Yeah.
Organic pastures as well. There's also there in California, truly raw almonds.
TrulyRawAlmond.com. Okay. Okay, so you have to find a small almond grower. I can't get that in my mouth. I'm touching my mouth, so I won't do it. Any more questions before I start up? I'm going to have to ask you to really be as quiet as you can because the fans are so noisy I can't hear a thing. Shh. Any more questions before I make the next soup? How's that mushroom soup? Which do you like better, the mushroom or the corn? The corn's great. It's very fresh tasting, isn't it? Are you okay? Any more questions before I make more noise? Speaking of questions, tomorrow at 9 o'clock in the morning, I'll be in that new room. I haven't seen it yet. I forget what it's called, the meeting room. For 2 hours, from 9 to 11, I am giving a brief talk on how to start or stay raw. There are some steps and some sequence of events that I found need to happen. Could you bring me over? Where's my helper? She's handing out. Where's sister? Never mind, I'll do it myself. I just need this recipe transferred over to up close to me. I really could do it myself, but it keeps me moving around a lot. Say it again? Okay, Abundant Health. What does it say my talk is called?
It's called Nomi, Shannon, the 3 secret fail-safe steps to success.
The 3 secret fail-safe steps to success on starting and continuing your raw food diet. Thank you. Yes, I named it, but then I forgot what I named it. But in all honesty, you know, they needed a title. What it's really about, and I am going to speak on that, but out of the 2 hours, it's a very short duration of time, and I'm going to give you some steps. The rest of the time is going to be, what do you want to know? This is like, I usually no holds barred, meaning I speak on anything. I'll tell you if I don't know, or I might even tell you some, you know, kind of inside stuff. Not so easy to do when you're being taped. So, you know, maybe some stuff where I won't want to go there and, you know, we can talk afterwards or something. Because, you know, I like my life the way it is. I really don't want to spend any time in jail. So, silly me. Martha Stewart did it. All right, so now we're going to make tomato soup. And it really is very dependent, this soup, on how good the tomatoes are. So I'm cheating a little in case I don't necessarily like the way it came out, because I made this about a month ago at another event, and I didn't like the way it came out. So I've had some sun-dried tomatoes put on the soap, because that'll fix any tomato dish no matter what's wrong with it. Makes your marinara sauce with winter tomatoes delicious and all that kind of stuff. So the recipe for the summer tomato basil soup is 3 cups of tomato puree, and I always approximate 6 to 8 tomatoes, but I ask them to bring me a lot because, you know, I need 3 cups of puree. And 1/4 of a lemon, peeled and seeded, and 1 avocado, which I don't see. Large handful of sprouts, tablespoon of chopped onion. There's onion somewhere. Yep. Small small clove of garlic. Thank you. Now this is a fantastic, strong, amazing blender. This is actually the large jar. You can get a large jar, and this is one of them. It's twice as large as the other one. It's hard to tell, but it really is. But when you put round stuff in even the best of blenders, it can go whacking around and whacking around. So I'm starting off by, you know, chopping up some stuff for the blades to engage it. I mean, you know, you pay $400 for a blender. You kind of like it to, you like to baby it a little, you know. So how hard is it? This isn't hard, what I'm doing. Yes. I sell both jars, and the top comes with it. If you just want the top, you can call the company for that. I don't have a clue what just the top, but the top fits all their jars. So you want a new top, or do you want the jar? Are you talking about the lid or the jar? Yeah, I do sell the jars. I don't remember what they cost, but I have it written down downstairs. No kidding. I don't know why I'm having trouble. Come on. Stuff always happens to me only in front of people, never at home. I don't know what I did, but this isn't fitting right. For some reason, this jar, well, it works better on my home blender, but anyway. Where's my helper? This isn't my blender, is it, Joyce? This isn't my blender from downstairs, is it? Okay. It just looks just like it. Okay, so that's 8 ounces in a cup, so that's 2 cups, and I want 3 cups of puree. These are very nice tomatoes. I actually often use Roma tomatoes, which are less expensive, because it still comes out okay. Oh, I don't have to do this anymore. It's already got its, you know, connected. The blades are connected, so I don't have to cut it anymore. That was just a habit. That's a little more than 2 cups, but it'll do. Okay, so other ingredients. 1/4 lemon, peeled and seeded. Here's a secret. If you love the taste of lemon, use a little of the skin. Not a lot, just a little. If you love the taste of lemon. If you don't love the taste of lemon, you know, don't. So, all right. I left a little of the lemon skin on, eh? I just felt I needed to do that. It wasn't in the recipe. Well, recipes are suggestions, you know. You could get like a tomato that isn't very tasty. This is a better knife to do this thing with. It's heavier duty. All these years I've been coming here, I never got that there was trash right here. Very helpful to know. And there's way better things to scoop out avocado with than this teeny little spoon, but this is what I have. You know, a big tablespoon is, you know, faster. Oh, well. That would mean I'd have to turn my back on all you lovely people. That would feel terribly rude. So who's coming to my talk tomorrow? Good. You got to have people there for it to work. Okay, so the whole point of this is to get some sprouts in. They only had this kind of sprout, which is clover. I was sort of meaning buckwheat or sunflower, but that's okay. Whatever works. Or, you know, a handful of greens, something like that. 2 tablespoons fresh chopped basil. How do you measure 2 tablespoons of fresh? I mean, I'm not going to chop it. That's just, for people who need exact quantities. I don't even really need to smash the garlic because of this machine, but just for the fun of it, I'll show you a good garlic smashing method. Is there another jar around like this, or anything, even a jar of olive oil or something? I learned this technique from a one-armed lady. Not kidding. How hard is this, what I'm doing? Could you do this at home? When you go home, will you make the corn chowder? All right. It's definitely the star. Look I knocked my towel off. Thank you. Oh, that's everything. Gosh, the tomato, the lemon, the avocado, the sprouts, the basil, the onion. Geez. Well, I'm going to taste it first. See if it needs it. By the color, I'm going to guess it does, but you can't always tell. This is the older cover. There's a much better cover than this that's used now. Noisy, isn't it? I once had a lady opera singer, didn't get it because she was afraid it would hurt her, tone or something, her ears. That's pretty good, but it's very, very, very light and a little acidic tasting. Could you get me a date? So I'm going to do 2 things. First, I'm going to try this, and if it's still acidic tasting, I'm going to put a date in too, because these have a sweetness to them. Sun-dried tomatoes, pardon? I don't know. Well, I asked them to soak a half a cup, and they did, and I'm adding it all. Sorry, I do know. Half cup soaked, but once it's soaked, it's, bigger. We'll see how it comes out. Watch how it changes the color. Thank you very much. Okay. Good advice. Okay. Remember Ed Norton? Needs a date. See now, so you're going to have what I call pantry. If it needed to be sweetened to your palate and you didn't have a date, you could use something else, a little agave or whatever. But it's sure handy to have some dates. They are pitted. What do you know? She's smart. She's worked with people. She said, it's not pitted. Because, when you're busy and you're trying to talk and everything, you might not notice that it's not pitted, So she's been around and knows how to help people, and I appreciate that. Thank you, Mary. This does not fit on this right. It's really strange. Okay. It's wonderful having all these spoons. Wow. I don't know. These tomatoes are really acidic. So I'll do that. Oh, you know what? I didn't. I'll put a little salt and I'll put a little onion. Maybe that's it. Let's see. It didn't really call for salt. Put a little red pepper in too. What it is, I think, is they're not as substantial, these sprouts, as the original recipe calls for. So it's, just a little tweaking, needs a little tweaking. I think this time it'll be the 3rd time is the charm, or maybe this is the 4th. Yeah, this thing is so not right. That was my fault. I didn't put it on tight enough because I'm feeling like it's a rush. So, see, there's a lesson in everything. Always put the cover on right. As long as I'm not wearing it anywhere else. Okay, let's see. It's very much getting there. If I wanted to take the time, I'd spend a little more time adding a few more veggies. The pepper really helped it, but I don't want to take the time. Here you go, ladies, because we want you to have a taste. Of the 3 soups I made today, I think this is the least, desirable in terms of taste. But, I know some of you are going to think it's the best because, that's life. So we'll just make it kind of cute. And here we go. So you're going to be getting your taste, and I can take a few more questions, and then it's on to the pie contest. Yeah, that's always fun. So you need to speak up rather loud. Okay. Yes, my dear.
Nomi, I heard you're going to be in Alameda this Wednesday.
Yes, how did you know? Could it be because you're hosting it?
I'm hosting the wonderful, famous Nomi Shannon in Alameda, California, which is in the Bay Area. She's going to be answering questions and doing a talk. Only $20. We have a wonderful green chef that's going to be preparing raw snacks and green drinks for you. $20 to get a private audience with Nomi Shannon.
And that's a Wednesday night in Alameda, which is
In Alameda, California.
which is next to Oakland. Yes.
Well, I'm not going to tell you unless we register and pay.
Now, and I would like you to meet, Joyce, could you come by me for a sec? I'd like to introduce you to Joyce Kempis Moreau, who flew here from France to help me. She is, however, an American girl, although she can speak French. She is a absolutely fabulous raw chef on her own, and she teaches fitness and raw food in France. She's getting those French meat-eating French people to come around. We met on a course I gave called 21 Days to Better Health, which is still available, downloadable, but at the time we met on the live one, a whole bunch of us, I was giving courses and ebooks about staying raw for 21 days, and her contributions were amazing. The things she wrote and the recipes she made for her in-laws and stuff like that. And I know someday she's going to wind up writing a brilliant raw book, and I've asked her to do it in English too, so we could all have it. So thank you. Give this lovely lady a hand. And her beautiful sister, who I don't see. Is Jan around? I got help from her beautiful sister who just got married in Tuscany last month. These girls know how to live. This one lives in Provence, and that one gets married in Tuscany. Oh, my goodness. I think we have time for 2 more questions while you guys are sampling the tomato soup, and then you can tell me which one you like best. Don't be shy. It doesn't have to be about recipes. It could be about cleansing, healing. Yeah. Okay. What temperature should we set the dehydrator at? It's a great question. There's a lot of misinformation out in raw. If you read my newsletter, you'll know I have this category of people called 3-week wonders. And they're people who eat raw for 3 weeks, feel so great, they immediately run out and start teaching it. And so they don't know enough to be teaching. There are a lot of people on this. So there's information in books, on websites, in lectures about just set your dehydrator for 90 degrees. But it's the same thing as I mentioned when we talked about warming soup up. I mean, at that lower temperature, you're just inviting mold and all kinds of, fats to, go rancid. So even with an oven, as you know, probably, if you put, let's say the Thanksgiving turkey in the oven and set it for 350, does that turkey ever get to 350? No. It probably gets, I think, done as, 140. So the same with the dehydrator. If you have something wet and cold, you can put it at 140. But if you're home, to turn it down in a few hours when it starts to feel warm. I always do my stuff, if it's crackers, 140. If it's something else, 115, 120. Because it's not going to get, what you set your temperature at isn't the temperature the food's going to get to. I am done, ladies and gentlemen, because we have to clean up. Thank you so much for coming here. You probably have just enough time to get your soup sample. I appreciate it. Hope to see you at the pie eating contest and tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock.